35. War Day 5. Cat vs. Rabbit. I woke up strangely relaxed. This was probably one of the best dreamless sleeps I ever had. Standing up from where I curled up the night in my villain lair, I immediately saw that Todoroki's burns were healed. Me. Thanks, recovery girl. I knew that the hero was probably mad at me, but I was thankful that she was so kind and healed up my wound. To be honest, I didn't expect that at all. It also wouldn't have affected my fighting one bit. I was strangely used to be beaten up by my mother or burned by Katsuki's explosions. That explains the good night's sleep I had. Now let's see who is next on my target list. Should I go against a love member or one of Class 1A or the other traitor? Should I use their quirk against them or should I use my daggers? What if I create another tragic and dramatic experience or a nightmare? There is so much to think of. While thinking of all the possibilities I had, I went to my arsenal of weapons and began refilling the knife and daggers with fake blood and putting grenades and cuffs in my pockets. This doesn't take me long to do, but once I was finished I could hear some footsteps. They were all too familiar to me. The sound was light but echoed through the tunnels. A normal person might not have picked the sound up, but I did. It was none other than my homeroom caterpillar. Strange. Why would he be down here? Me. Nezu, I want an explanation. Why is Aizawa-sensei running in the tunnels? Nezu. Oh dear, so you could tell? If you don't mind me asking, Izuku, but how did you know he is in the tunnels? Me. Matter of fact, I am not deaf. I can hear his footing echoing, and by the sound of it he is getting closer and I want to know why. I didn't do anything wrong. Nezu. Oh no, quite the contrary. The show you did yesterday was quite unique and… Me. Exhaling, don't tell me I need to face my teacher's wrath. Nezu. No, that's not quite it. I made a proposal and Eraserhead was willing to accept it. If you beat him in a fight of stealthiness, he will become a valuable asset to you, a partner in this game. Me. You mean a villain or an informant? Nezu. A villain in terms of the game. However, if you lose, the hero side wins by default. Me. Do I get a say in this? Nezu. No. Me. Sarcasm. Ah, great, how lovely. Nezu. Nice to see that we have come to the same agreement. I swear this is more a punishment than any help. Is he serious? I mean, I do understand what he meant with assessment, but there must have been another way to deal with this situation. Don't get me wrong, I can win the fight, but I don't want to right now. On the other hand, I would have Aizawa as a backup if needed. The more I think about this, the more I am happy about it. What's wrong with me? Now I even like the idea. Nezu is really brilliant. I do wonder if Aizawa was forced to do this too. Me. Am I at least allowed to use everything I have on me to defend myself? Nezu. My, of course. Here is the condition: you will fight until one of you give up or is unable to move for more than 10 sec. Me. All right. Nezu. Good luck. I closed my eyes and listened carefully. He was close, nearly here. The walls in the underground tunnels and rooms are brick walls. There was a slim chance of me climbing that wall, and if I managed to do that, only if, that would mean I could surprise him from behind. Alright, the plan is set, let's do this. Not wanting to waste any time, I prepared myself and took out 2 of my knives and began climbing the wall with them. It was rather me forcing the knife into the slim gaps between the bricks and then pulling myself up. This is harder than it looks like, but so worth it. After somehow climbing the wall up, I maneuvered myself above the entrance and waited for Aizawa to get in. Luckily, for me, he was just a minute away. Unfortunately for me, that meant I needed to hold myself a whole minute and pray to any god that still liked me, that the knife wouldn't fall out of the wall and support me like I wanted it. Here comes the final moment. Aizawa sneaked into the lair a good 3 feet away from the entranced and began looking around. I had a genius smile on my face, as I had only one though in my mind. Oh kitty, you must have lost yourself and went the wrong rabbit hole down. Third paw. Aizawa was looking around the room frantically. He didn't spot Izuku or Usagi in his costume. The hero wasn't able to spot his student too. It was as he thought, he wasn't able to sense him nor spot him. He hated the fact that he really was outstealed. Then out of nowhere, the greenette jumped behind Eraser without making any sound. No reaction came from the hero as the villain. Usagi took out one of his knives and throwing it, aimed at his shoulder. Naturally, the knife hit the spot and fell to the ground. He wanted to mock him and let him know if that was a real knife he would have been in serious trouble. The moment Aizawa fell an impact to his shoulder, he jumped back and turned around only to be met with Izuku running full speed at him with the daggers in his hands. They were now engaged in a close combat. Aizawa, trying to get a hold of Midoriya, put his hands to his scarf and untied it around his neck, ready to get him down while at the same time dodging any attack aimed at him and jumping back to make some distance. Unbeknown to him, Izuku wasn't really trying to cut him, as it was no use with the knives and daggers he had. Seeing that the underground hero was trying to get some distance, the young boy jumped back and threw everything out of his pockets. The objects weren't heavy, he didn't even had many objects with him to begin with, but they would hinder his agility and he needed it right now. Aizawa saw Izuku throwing his knives, daggers, grenades and cuffs down on the floor. He didn't know what the little rabbit could do. However, he was not dumb or foolish to underestimate him. After what he did yesterday, the hero had a wage image on what Izuku was really capable. It saddened him to realize that one of his students was holding back at training and could take out anyone if he wanted but still pretend to be weak. The capture gear floated around Aizawa for some milliseconds until he throws it at Izuku. He, on the other hand, just dodges it, as it was nothing. Jumping to the side when needed or up and down. He even made back flips at some point to dodge it. As time passes by the game of cat and mouse, they had come to an end as Izuku declared his turn. Izuku. Is this all you can do? With that, Midoriya began running at the tired teacher and dodging the scarf in the process. He was closing the gap between them in an alarming rate. Not even a minute later, Aizawa needed to drop his scarf and retrieve it, as they were now in close range and Izuku seemingly ready for a hand-to-hand combat. Therefore, the fight began. Izuku was the first one to manage to successfully make a hit. His right foot connected to the hero's side of the head. The greenette was jumping in the last second in order to get that hit right. The hero stumbled some steps, but Izuku wasn't letting him recover that easy. He was immediately in front of the hero, punching him in the gut. In one moment, he was in front of Aizawa, and in the next, he was behind him and pulling at one end of the capture gear. Seeing, as Aizawa still hadn't regained his balance, he began turning in circles until his scarf was gone from his shoulders. Because of the dizziness he got from turning in circles and the not-so-steady footing he had, Shota fell down. Izuku wrapped the scarf around his throat and looked down at the tired and confused man in front of him. It was funny for him to see the underground pro-hero Eraserhead at his mercy. Izuku. Wanna give up? Aizawa. Kid, you are still holding back. As long as you won't face me seriously, I won't give up. Izuku. Fair enough. Have it your way then. Aizawa was impressed of the kid in front of him. He couldn't sense his movements, nor was he able to predict it, as his child was waiting for the last minute for an opening to attack, and it worked. He had hit him in the head, and that not lightly. He could deliver a blow, that was for sure. However, after seeing how he became one with the shadows, Shota guessed that he was holding back again. It was true that the hero nearly couldn't hold up with the green bean, but he needed to know what his student is capable of. Strangely, after knowing all this, he was proud to be outsteeled by his problem child. Aizawa was soon snapped out of the train of thoughts in his head as Izuku simply vanished from his visual field within a second. He looked around, but it was already too late. Izuku saw Aizawa standing there and waiting for his next attack, and so he did what the hero asked him to do. He brought the fight to another level, speaking of speed, agility, stealthiness and naturally durability. He wasn't panting, but he could tell that his teacher was getting tired from the speed. Eraserhead wasn't a speed fighter, but one that could probably fight for hours without getting tired. But because of the speed his student and because of the concentration the hero needed to put into the fight to be able to see his attacks, he simply became tired of it real quick. Midoriya focused on his aura and made it vanish to the point as if he never existed in the room next. He took some steps right at Aizawa and then ducked and went out of the visual field of his sensei, then ran to his side and swapped him of the ground. The hero fell down and Izuku jumped back, waiting for him to rise up, only to be attacked again. This time he hit him in the gut, followed by a right hook, then another hit and another. The teacher was now desperately trying to protect himself but wasn't able to counter any attack thrown at him. Aizawa was coughing out blood and thanks to a hit in his face had probably a black eye and an open lip. Izuku was attacking without using one for all, but his kicks and punches were not to be taken lightly and his speed rivaled Ida's quirk. He could bet he was even faster. This should be impossible without the use of quirks. It was his first time to see someone vanish in front of his eyes without using any kind of teleportation quirk, just with raw speed and agility. Seeing, as the black cat couldn't fight anymore, he jumped back and waited for the man to recover. Soon after that, he was caught in his own capture gear. Their little fight had ended. Izuku. Checkmate. Nezu. Congrats. Now would you be so kind and let him free? At the rat god's signal, the greenette let Aizawa go and helped him to his feet. Izuku. Let me take a look at the wounds you got from my hits. I know you don't have any open wound besides the cut on your lip, but I still would like to tend your wounds. Aizawa. That won't be necessary, problem child. Izuku. You coughed up blood. How is that not serious? You either let me see them or I will ask for recovery girl. Aizawa. Fine. After making sure his injuries aren't life-threatening and he doesn't have a concussion or a broken rib that would pierce through his lung. He began tending the wounds of his teacher with the little things he found in the first aid kit. Izuku. All right, nothing serious, just bruises. Once Izuku was done, he took the scarf from his shoulders and handed it back to Aizawa. The man gladly took it and wrapped it around his neck. He felt so much more secure with it, but Shota wouldn't tell anyone about this fact. Without his scarf, he felt like a part of him was missing. Izuku then went to grab all his weapons from the ground, including the cuffs, and placed it back into his pockets. Izuku. So you are now my villainous partner, huh? Aizawa. You won fair and square. So yes, I am Kid. Izuku. That's coming handy right now. I hope you don't mind terrorizing Class 1A even more than you do normally in the training field. Aizawa. What is that supposed to mean? Izuku. Nothing.